George Washington, hero or hypocrite? He led a ragtag army against the mightiest empire in the world, and won. He turned down power not once but twice. Statues bear his name, cities echo his legacy, and schoolchildren recite tales of his honesty. But what if the story we've been told is incomplete? What if the very man who helped birth a nation of freedom kept over 300 human beings in chains? Was George Washington a noble hero who rose above his time, or a hypocrite who helped build liberty while denying it to others? The revolutionary hero. In 1775, George Washington took command of the Continental Army. He was a tall, commanding figure, quiet but deliberate, and universally respected among the founding fathers. For 8 grueling years, he led American forces through bitter winters, crushing defeats, and eventual triumph at Yorktown. When the war ended, he could have seized power. Many wanted him to, but Washington chose instead to return home. He later became the first president under the Constitution, setting precedents for everything from term limits to the peaceful transfer of power. In the popular imagination, Washington became more than a man. He became the ideal. But ideals are tricky things, and beneath the image of the stoic patriot was a very different truth. The slaveholder of Mount Vernon. By the time Washington led the Revolution, he was one of Virginia's wealthiest men, and one of its largest slaveholders. At his Mount Vernon estate, more than 300 enslaved people lived, labored, and died under his command. They built his wealth, harvested his tobacco, served his meals, and cleaned his chambers. Washington didn't just inherit slaves, he bought and sold them. Records show he tracked their productivity meticulously and separated families when convenient. In Philadelphia, where the law required slaveholders to free enslaved people after 6 months, Washington rotated them in and out of the city to avoid compliance. It was a legal loophole, and he exploited it knowingly. Washington's private struggles with slavery. And yet, the story isn't entirely one of cold indifference. Privately, Washington expressed discomfort with the institution of slavery. He spoke of its moral contradictions, and in letters admitted that the practice was at odds with the ideals he had fought for. Unlike many of his contemporaries, he stopped selling slaves later in life and opposed the international slave trade. But he did not free them during his presidency, nor did he push for abolition. Was it fear? Was it economic interest? Was it simply the inability to fully break with the world he was raised in? Washington's conscience may have stirred, but his actions rarely matched his words. The Will and the Emancipation Clause. In death, Washington made a statement he never dared to make in life. In his will, he ordered that the 123 slaves he personally owned be freed upon the death of his wife, Martha. It was the only instance among the founding fathers where a major figure freed all his slaves in his will. But even this gesture came with caveats. It did not apply to the dower slaves, those technically owned by the estate of Martha's first husband, and it left many families divided, some free, others still in bondage. Was this redemption? A final attempt to square his actions with his ideals? Or was it simply too little, too late? Legacy, hero, hypocrite, or human? George Washington's legacy is as vast as the republic he helped create. He set a new standard for leadership and left behind a blueprint for democratic governance. But he also left behind a legacy of contradiction. He fought for liberty while denying it to hundreds. He championed virtue while protecting an institution built on cruelty. So what do we make of him? Maybe the better question is, what should we learn from him? Washington was a man of his time, but he was also a man who helped shape the future. By examining his contradictions, we confront our own. In the end, he was neither perfect hero nor simple hypocrite. He was human, and that may be the most important lesson of all.